4 months ago, the Maruti Victoris joined our long-term fleet. And in that time, it has been a daily commuter in our traffic and pothole-infested Mumbai roads, a weekend getaway companion and a willing subject to a rigorous real-world mileage test. And after 4,000 kilometers, we have a lot to say. What we liked, what stood out, and what could have been better. So, let's get to it. The first thing that genuinely impressed me over 4 months of daily use is the ride quality. Now, Maruti has been known how to tune a suspension to suit the Indian road conditions, but the Victoris takes it a step further. Whether you're crawling over a broken patch at 20 km per hour or cruising at 100 on a slightly rough expressway, this car stays composed. Even with a full load, it doesn't crash, it doesn't fidget, and it certainly doesn't send you throwing off your seat. It cushions the bad stuff quietly, and the ground clearance is just enough that you're not wincing every time you approach a speed breaker. Now, that's not a small thing to pull off consistently. Now, the Victoris is a feature-loaded SUV. That's something you already know. But what stood out for me were the features that I actually ended up using quite regularly. Cool seats, for example, a genuine lifesaver in Mumbai's heat. The powered tailgate feels fancy at first, but when your hands are full, you realize how convenient it actually is. The onboard air purifier might seem like a novelty, but given the AQI situation in our cities today, it's quietly doing important work. And then there's the panoramic sunroof, which is dual pane. When you open it, the second pane slides behind the first, giving you a noticeably larger open area. It's not something you would typically find or even notice in this segment, but once you do, it's a nice little detail to appreciate. Now step back and look at the bigger picture, and the Victoris feels like a much more evolved Maruti. Forget what rivals are offering for a moment. In fact, it feels a step above of what you would expect from a Maruti car. There are soft touch materials where it matters. The design avoids gimmicks like the connected DRLs and instead goes for something more understated. It's conventional but still modern. There's a slight estate-like stance to it, and the segmented tail lamps have a character that feels very un-Maruti but in a refreshing way. Overall, it just feels well thought out and appropriately positioned for its segment. But living with the car also means that you start noticing the things that could have been better. Now, the Maruti Victoris can be had with multiple powertrain options. There's a 1.5-litre petrol, there's a CNG, and even a strong hybrid option. Now, our test car, it came with a 1.5-litre petrol with mild hybrid technology paired with a 6-speed torque converter automatic gearbox and also Maruti's all-wheel drive technology. Now, it puts out 102 bhp, and for city, that's perfectly adequate. It moves, it does all the labor, and the automatic gearbox is also quite smooth. But take it onto the highway or ask it to climb, and the engine runs out of ideas fairly quickly. It's not sluggish, but it's not punchy. You'll find yourself dipping into sport mode or reaching out for the paddle shifters more than you would expect on a highway run. The Victoris does offer a hybrid version, and this is probably where the powertrain would make a more meaningful difference. Now, another thing is the interior theme. Now, this light color interior does make the cabin look overall very airy and spacious, but there's one downside to it, and I've made peace with the fact that keeping this interior clean is now my part-time job. The beige upholstery, especially since it's not full leatherette, tends to attract dirt and stains quite easily. Over time, keeping it clean becomes a bit of a task. In fact, I had to get an interior cleaning kit just to keep things looking fresh. So yes, it looks great, but it demands effort. Now, the Victoris has a very practical boot. You get over 400 liters of storage, electric tailgate, 60/40 rear seats, and also some underfloor storage. All very good. But here's the catch, you don't get a spare wheel as standard. There is space and provision for one, but you'll have to purchase it separately as an accessory. In a country where a flat tire on a highway is a real scenario, that feels like an oversight. Now the Victoris is the first Maruti to get level 2 ADAS, and honestly it works fine. We've used the adaptive cruise control, that's very reliable. Also the lane keep assist on our highway runs, and that's consistent too. However, there is one irritant, and that's the preference of it. Let's say if you find the ADAS a bit too intrusive, you can switch off all those settings with the buttons here. However, it does not remember that preference for the entire time, and it resets every single time you turn on the car. Now it's a minor thing, but it actually accumulates over the time, and you always have to switch it off, and it doesn't have any memory of its own to remember your ADAS settings. And now the number everyone actually wants to know. How much does the Victoris return in the real world? Well, we did our standard tank-to-tank method separately in both city and also on the highway. In city conditions, it returned 14.78 kmpl, and on the highway a much more impressive and noticeable 20.24 kmpl. Now for a car that's got a 1.5 litre petrol engine of this size and also all-wheel drive, that is a really impressive highway number. So 4 months and 4,000 odd kilometers later, where does the Victoris land? Well, it's genuinely a well-rounded package that punches way above its weight than you would expect from a Maruti in this segment. The ride quality is a highlight that will hold up long after the novelty of the features wears off. It's comfortable, it's practical, but the engine in this spec will test your patience on the highway. The light interior demands upkeep, and the missing spare wheel is a baffling omission. Lots to like, a few things to wish were different. There are two more quick ones to round off. The 360-degree camera. It gets the job done, but the resolution and clarity are just average, especially when you compare it to what some Korean rivals offer. And lastly, the idle start-stop system. It tends to cut the engine a fraction before the car comes to a complete halt. In bumper-to-bumper traffic, this can feel slightly unnatural and occasionally irritating. Now taken as a whole, the Victoris has been a pleasant car to live with. Now, of course, there are strong contenders in the segment such as the Creta, Seltos, Elevate, Highrider, and even the new Duster and the updated Kushaq, all of which bring their own strengths to the table. But what do you think of the new Victoris? What do you like, or what would you like to change? Write them down below, we read them all and we'll answer them, and let's have a very honest and open conversation. So this was me with the Victoris, and we'll see you in the next video.